The other day I was reading a question and somebody asked, do you need to buy a special kalimba to play the pentatonic, or can I use a normal kalimba like this one? The good news is you don't need to buy a special kalimba, it's all in here. And this is pretty much the simplest, most standard kalimba you can probably get on the market nowadays. This is a normal diatonic kalimba tuned in C major, and it has 17 tongues. And it's a very joyful instrument. Yes, you can play the pentatonic, no question. And I will demonstrate it very quickly. So we can play, for example, the C major pentatonic. There are many different types of pentatonics, by the way. I, for example, could play the A minor pentatonic, and I'm just improvising. I just improvise with the A minor pentatonic because that's what it's for. The pentatonic is very versatile and it's very easy to play over pretty much anything and improvise. Especially for people who want to start improvising, pentatonic is pretty much the easiest way to start. There's also, for example, these Japanese pentatonic. It's different, it's very, very different, and it's hovering over something very interesting. Okay, the short answer to your to the question is yes, you can play the pentatonic on a normal standard kalimba, but the story is much, much more interesting and older than you think. What fascinates me so much is that the pentatonic was developed, or pentatonic systems were developed by different cultures independently at the same time, without any connection of these cultures. And it's really ancient. It's more than ancient, almost. By the way, this is my washing machine. It also has a certain frequency. I will show you the pentatonic, but before that I think I want to explain a bit why different cultures can find the same tonal system. So what's a pentatonic? Penta means 5, and pentatonic is a tonal system with 5 notes, 5 intervals within an octave. What is an octave? Well, imagine you play a note and this string is vibrating in a certain frequency, in a certain speed. And what it really does is changing the pressure of the air slightly in a certain frequency that then hits my ear drum. And then I can hear the sound. So that means a certain frequency, the sound wave with a certain frequency hits my ear. An octave is basically if I just double the speed of the sound wave, and I can do that by just half the string here, just in the middle of the string. That is my octave. It's the same note, but not. It's just double the speed of the sound wave, the wiggly air. Wiggle, double wiggle. And maybe another analogy for that is colors. So if you have a red and then you double the brightness of the red, then you get another red, but it's much brighter than that. It doesn't become green when you change the brightness. So that's maybe how you can see it. And another tone would be another color. The problem is this is just a one-tone system. It's always the same tone. How can we break out of that? We could see that as a ratio, right? So you have, imagine a sine wave. Sine wave, one cycle of the wave is like going up, the air pressure builds up, it goes down, it becomes neutral, it lowers the air pressure and it goes back up. And then this is one cycle of that wave. And if I double the speed of that sine wave, then within that one cycle I have suddenly 2 cycles, up, down, up, down. And as a ratio you could say that as 1 to 2. 1, and then double the speed by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. And I could double that again. I could double the double. And this is exactly a quarter of the string. So the last note I played would be a ratio of 1 to 4. So the problem is now, how can we break out of that octave system? Because we want to play the notes in between the octave here. By the way, you also have the octaves on the kalimba. If I start at C, we have the C. And then we have an octave higher, is here. By the way, they are called C and then C with a point. And then C with 2 points. What would be the next logic or simplest ratio after 1 to 2 or 1 to 4? 1 to 3. Imagine a sine wave. Sine wave, you have one cycle and then you triple the speed of the sound wave. Then you have, within that cycle you have 3 up, down, up, down, up, down. Then you have 3 waves. That is tripling the speed. If I divide the string in 3 parts, then I would land somewhere here. This is my first third, and then I would have a second one here. And then it would be the octave of that, which is a half of that string. A half of that length is now here. So a ratio of 1 to 3 would be... But because this is already higher than my octave, we just transpose the whole thing down. And you could call that then a ratio of 2 to 3. 1, 2, 3. And you just transpose the whole thing, and then you have 1. So that's the first note which is not an octave within that system. This is, by the way, the power chord. So if you ever heard about power chord, that's what it means. It's the root note and then the 5th, but I don't want to spoil it yet. But yeah, these are the power chords. It's any rock, heavy metal, hardcore, punk song uses these power chords. It's after the 1 to 2 ratio, the most simplest ratio you can get without it being octave. So if we look at this, if we look here, C, and if we jump over G, and we have G again here. So I could play with that. Not very inspiring. Now we could go further and ask ourselves what would be the next ratio. So we looked at 1 to 3, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, which was just an octave of the octave. Now the next one would be 1 to 5, right? We could divide the string in 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it becomes a bit crazy. I'm just telling you what it is. It's actually here. The ratio, if we take 1 to 4, imagine one sine wave. Now this would be 1 to 5 would be higher than, remember the ratio 1 to 4 is the octave of the octave, so there would be some higher. Doesn't make much sense. Transposing everything, we would reach this note. And on the Kalimba, this is the E. It's the E note. The second tongue. Now you can already see that is our first major chord. So we're creating with these notes, with these like very simple ratios, basically dividing a string in certain segments, creating these notes. And that's why a lot of different cultures were able to generate the same system. The one do it with strings, the other one do it with, I don't know, huffing bamboo sticks, you know, or having holes on a certain position on the bamboo just to change the tone for a flute, for example. We could think of it also different, and that's the more straightforward. Is I could take the 2-to-3 ratio from C to reach G. It's called fifth here because it's a fifth note in the diatonic C system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the fifth note, but it's the closest in terms of ratio. It's the closest to the root in terms of ratio. Now, in order to move forward, what we could do, instead of like trying all different kinds of ratios, we could just say, what is the fifth of the fifth? So if I look here again, I go from C and I play the fifth of the root note, which is G. Now I play the fifth of G, which is D. So the ratio between C and G is the same as G and D. C, G, D. And now we can go further like this. We can say, what is the fifth note, or what's the fifth of the D? Is A. So the ratio between D and A is the same as it is for G and D, and is it for C and G. C, G, D, A. Now guess what? A to E is again the same, meaning that the ratio between A and E is the same as the ratio between D and A and G and D and C and G. And these are my major pentatonic notes. C, G, D, A, E. C, G, D, A, E. And I have another E here as a second note. I have a D here, I have an A here, and a C, and an E, and a G. Actually, from my 7-tone kalimba, because I have 7 tones and octaves of these tones, I just take away 2 and I get my C major pentatonic. C, D, E, G, A, C. It's as simple as that. If you want to play the A minor pentatonic, the A minor pentatonic is so famous because pretty much everybody who starts to play guitar learns that, plays the E minor pentatonic, which is it's basically the base for the blues pentatonic, which is this one. That's the blues pentatonic. It just adds one more tone, like a flavor. But in general, it's an A minor pentatonic, and the A minor pentatonic is exactly the same as the C major pentatonic. That's just that we start on a different note. We start with A. Just to recap, in order for you to remember what are the tones of the C major pentatonic. C, you jump over one of the tongues, you reach G, you jump again one of the tongues, you reach D, then you reach A and E. And these are your tones for the pentatonic, the major pentatonic. You can find different flavors by starting from a different bass note of that pentatonic. Another thing what the pentatonic is really good for is melodies. So you can create, if you start out and you have melodies in your head, probably they are inspired by the pentatonic, and so many songs are based on pentatonic, it's insane. If you want to learn more about it, because I haven't told you everything, if you want to learn more about it, please check out some of the links in the show notes, especially the ones where we talk about temperated and natural tuning systems, intonation, because the ratios, there is a problem to it, but that we will cover in another video. In the next video about the Kalimba and about pentatonics, I will talk about the Japanese pentatonic. I'm your bear, and this is Acute Noise.